It's Saint Paddy's Day, and you're watching EXJW-Live.
Hello, my name is Jason Wynne.
Good morning, lads. Top of the morning to all of you. We got some of our biggest names coming on this channel. And today we got the biggest name of all because it's our Lord and Savior, St. Patrick's Day. And here he is, Mr. Jason Wynne.
Hello, blessings to everyone on this great fine day in the Irish Republic, where all the Americans are going to be running up and down the streets and turning their waters green while we're having pints of the black stuff here in Ireland.
The black stuff? What the hell is the black stuff?
Guinness. What else?
Okay, I would have thought that's dark brown, but okay, black.
Oh yeah, get very technical about it too.
Do you really talk like that? Is that your real voice? Is that your real accent?
No. For sure, definitely not. Actually, do you know what?
You guys don't drink green beer over there? That's a Canadian thing, hey, on St. Patrick's Day.
No, that's sacrilegious. You never mess with the black. Never mess with the black. It stays black. Yeah, we don't. Well, the worst we would do is some people would put in blackcurrant into the Guinness because they might find it a bit too bitter and it sweetens it up a little bit. What you would never put into Guinness, but you should try it, is orange juice. So if you put a little bit of orange juice into Guinness, it'll continually turn. You know that where it's going from brown to black, it'll continually stay going brown and never actually get to black. So if you want to keep it continually going, because that's
back
the
to black
part about Guinness is where it's continually going from brown to black. Just one of those little tricks that most people don't know about.
This and so much more.
I'm gonna try orange juice and Guinness. That is a great idea.
Yeah,
we used to put orange juice in Belgian beer. That was pretty common.
Orange juice and Belgian beer. All right, okay.
Yeah. Any hoppy beer, we would put orange juice in.
That would work. That would give it a fruity flavor to a fruity drink.
Yeah,
I guess. But if you try putting milk into beer,
what, you're going crazy now. This is insane. Milk?
Yeah, but no, just put a drop of milk and you should watch it. Just put it into the center and watch it. It'll go down to about the middle. You just watch it and then it'll explode right in the middle of the beer and it'll start falling like snow. Perfect for Christmas.
Milk and beer. You guys are crazy over there. You're nuts.
No, that's
got all your holidays covered.
We had rules about beer. You know what? There's a lot of people here that would never put fruit in beer ever or any fruity flavor. It's just the beer. Hey, speaking of beer, do you have this what is it, an IPA, like this new trend where everybody drinks these local kind of hoppy beers? Is that going on over in Ireland too?
Yeah, that's become a thing.
Really?
A lot of local breweries, small little microbreweries. I think, was it a Canadian thing or an American thing first? Or maybe, I guess it was probably a German thing because Germany always had the microbreweries. You go to any part of Germany, to the various states in Germany, because it's a federal state just like the United States. They had their own local region beers, and it seems that has gone across the world now, where all these microbreweries with their IPAs. I mean, it's quite interesting. You get lovely various tastes. You go to a bar and you nearly get a menu and you can look at it. Oh yeah, I'll try this one today, please. Only because it's got 12% alcohol.
Only because I'm super cultured.
It's for the taste. We have an apricot. Delicious. It's not delicious. Okay.
Well, you know what? This is our we're calling it our Saint Paddy's Day episode. Now, Jason, we know it's not Saint Paddy's Day. We know today isn't Saint Paddy's Day, but this is the Saint Paddy's Day episode. All right. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. If I wasn't okay with that, I wouldn't look so ridiculous, would I? With my lovely, my green and orange.
My son's name is Patrick, hey?
Huh?
My son's name is Patrick.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't. Would you call him Paddy or Patty?
Not in a million years.
You wouldn't even call him Paddy.
No.
No. Oh well. See, most Patricks over here, we call him Paddy.
Really?
Yeah, we would. Yeah, but we wouldn't call him Patty. So that's what we got. I don't understand why the Americans and the Canadians call it Saint Paddy's Day. It's not.
Well,
Saint
I don't.
Paddy's Day. It's Saint Paddy's Day with a D, like in Daddy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many things I don't know about you guys over there.
Yeah.
I'm lost. Hey, you know what? Before we get started, something needs to be said here. Something needs to be cleared up. And that is, for a large part of my life, I was a huge U2 fan. Like a huge, fanatical U2 fan.
I know.
And, it's out of favor now. It's not, it's not cool to be a U2 fan. And maybe it hasn't been cool for like a few decades.
Maybe it's because they dropped that awful album on every single person that had iTunes.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great marketing technique, really.
No.
That's for sure. You never force your music on people, because that's the worst thing you can ever do. But like you, Greg, I've been a huge U2 fan, and kind of in recent years just kind of go, nah, no longer interested. I was big into them all the way up until, I suppose, the No Line on the Horizon album.
Yeah, I actually like that album. Yeah,
that's a cool one.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about U2 that you wouldn't know about me is that I was a moderator on their website way back in 2001. I was a test moderator. So basically, they had a bunch of guys that were running the website and running the forum, and they gave me moderator privileges to moderate a certain section of the site and see how it went. And it went really well.
Really?
The reason I guess they gave it to me is I was quite controversial as a U2, a lover of the music and being on the website.
So you were an activist even with U2.
Well, I was an activist in the sense that, not an activist, I was a troll. I was actually a troll, a complete other troll, because I could never understand why people, U2 make great music, fantastic songs, but why are you all so fucking obsessed with them? They're just four lads, and they're all married. Well, kind of all married. Yeah, they're married. They got partners. So, what? Why are you just obsessing? It's just music. So I troll these type of guys. You know? And then we eventually had a meetup in 2002, and I was the guy that they were actually hating to come. And then when they met me, it's like, you're actually cool. You're actually a laid back guy. But I was the only person
who can take a joke.
Yeah, but I was the only person from Ireland at it. I mean, there was people from Canada, from Russia, from Australia, from the US, all over the place. And it was a great meetup between a whole bunch of people in 2002. And some of us got to meet U2. In fact, some of us even got to ride in the back of his car because it was late at night and some of the girls were outside the studio, and he came out and he goes,
"Who's he? Which one?"
Bono.
Really?
He goes, guys, you can't stay here this late at night. It's dangerous down this side of town. Come on, I'm going to bring you back into town. So
no way.
His car and drove them in. Yeah.
What year was that?
2002.
Really? Yeah. They were good in 2000.
They were, because you had the All That You Can't Leave Behind album.
Yeah, their Boston, that live recording in Boston is a great concert.
Yeah,
and that was 2001, I think.
Yeah.
Because
they also had the Slane concert around that time as well.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I've seen that video too. So, okay, well, I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Yeah, I'm so glad we got the U2 stuff out of the way.
because sitting there.
Because Hozier is so much better when we're talking about Irish artists.
Well, I mean, the Irish music is just incredible. I've sat front row of the Cranberries. Irish when it comes, and Canada's got some pretty good music too. So we have some soul. You know what I mean? The Canadians and the Irish have some soul. Maybe not. Canada doesn't quite have the soul of the Irish, but
it's a different kind of soul. They don't have to be the same. That's you need to have your uniqueness. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
Because you've got Alanis Morissette, don't you?
We do.
Yeah, she's coming to town this summer.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she's still touring. Hey, that's that's just crazy. So okay, how do you want to start this, Nash, or whatever? Like basically, this is about you, Jason.
Yeah, I'm
So-
taking this stuff off now. I've done all my Paddy's Day stuff.
You're done, eh?
And it's getting too hot in here.
That's about how patriotic he is.
Yeah,
I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. We're not patriotic.
yeah.
We try.
Patriotism is a learned. We weren't born with it. We were.
No.
Well, you know what? Nash and I kind of did this thing as kind of a focus on activism, and it's like we'll talk about other things too, but we did want to. Activists are a big part of our channel, and that's why we wanted you here, because you are like an activist superstar. So why don't you? And I know that other channels have introduced you, and you've been on live streams lots of times. But give us a rundown of Jason Wynne for us. You got the floor, buddy.
Yeah, well, Jason Wynne was born in Ireland in Galway, which is on the west coast, the very west coast, right in the middle. So if you were to draw a straight line across from Dublin right across to Galway, it's one coast to the other coast. That's the way it is. Kind of the same as if you went from New York over to California, except just a fraction of the distance. I think it takes about 2.5 hours to go across from one side to the other. So my mom became a Jehovah's Witness when I was about 2 years of age. She got baptized in 1979. And she had got an awful lot of stick from my father, from her parents, and from my dad's parents. And they tried to get her out of it, but they wasn't having it. But the thing is with the Jehovah's Witnesses is they kind of play into that. They kind of show that you're going to get an awful opposition from Satan, and most of that's going to come from the family, which
they
that
prepare them for that.
Yeah, they preempt what's going to happen, and then it happens, and then that actually solidifies your belief that actually God and Satan are at war here to try and keep me. So she became a Jehovah's Witness. My dad had me and my elder sister kind of stay away from it for a while, and then around the age of 9, then I was allowed to go to meetings. Not that I really wanted to. I didn't really like going to meetings because they were so long. But I
you started going to meetings at 9.
Yeah, more or less.
Really?
Your dad was never a witness then?
Never a witness. Never became Jehovah's Witness. He studied for a little bit, but he just said no, not me. But he didn't mind Mom after a while. It took a good few years. There was a lot of arguments and what have you that would happen in a relationship like that, but we all grew up in it. I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters. One sister and myself are the only ones that got baptized. The other 3 that never got baptized. My eldest sister would kind of have been a believer for a bit, but not really. My 2 younger brothers, neither of them ever took to it at all. I guess that my middle brother would have kind of believed in it, even though he left it, but now he doesn't believe in it at all. He sees it for the rubbish that it is. I got baptized in 1995. I was 18 years of age, and then I got disfellowship then at the age of 20. Got reinstated when I was 21, and then got disfellowshipped again for the last time when I was 24.
Yeah, you guys are part of the disfellowshipped club, hey? Nash and Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Double.
I was never DF'd.
2 times.
Right. Yeah.
I got DA'd. Sort of.
Yes. Okay.
Forcibly DA'd. It's a weird one. But I wish I got DF'd. I'm kind of jealous of you guys. Wish I could say that. I wish I could put that, notch on my belt.
I don't want that notch.
Yeah, I don't like either.
No.
For me, I think if I had all the knowledge that I have now, I probably would just say no. I don't want to be here, and I'd just walk away. I say I neither want to be called a Jehovah's Witness or not called a Jehovah's Witness. So I'd not DA. But I know you get the whole thing that they're always watching you. So be it. They want to disfellowship me for other things. And then I can just say they went out of their way to expel me, not that I chose to leave.
Yeah.
And they always talk about this thing of that you can actually leave. Well, if you can actually leave and no repercussions, well, then you just leave someone alone if they don't want to be a part of it. And if they want to put up a Christmas tree in their house, they have a right to do so. But no, the Jehovah's Witnesses always are watching you like there's some sort of super police.
Well, you know, if I could do it again, the reason why I say the disfellowship comment is because I would have rather it be them that made the decision, that they kicked me out. And see, I'm involved in a lot of, you know, you could call it activism. It's data collection issues, right, in Canada, and they're always using that against me. That I made the decision to leave, and you know what I mean. I just that's why, you know, I kind of would have preferred if they were forced to actually kick me out. You know what I mean? So that's the only differentiation I would say between the disassociation and the disfellowshipping is make them make the decision. You know, but I do understand, and I've talked to a lot of people on this. I fully understand people that write in a letter and just want out, and they want to, you know, they want to make the break. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that was it, I guess. Yeah. And then I was out for quite a while, for many years. I'd say 13 years before in between that time, certain events that happened, and I should actually point these out because they're quite important, I believe, in my activism. In that, in and around 2006, 2007, my mum's, just prior to that, my mum's older brother, died of lung cancer. And then she went in a downward spiral of depression and ended up in the psych ward a couple of times and quite suicidal. And she couldn't see a way out of this. And at the time, she would have been soft shunning me. But then she was getting confused and thinking, oh, I have to shun you now because you no longer live at home. So I contacted the elders and I asked, can I have a meeting with you? So I went to them and I said, look, my mum is suicidal, as you probably already know as well. And I'm worried and concerned about her welfare. So I need to be able to speak with her. Were
you still a believer at this time, Jason?
I would have been a pommel, physically out, pommy, physically out, mentally in, right? Yeah. So I had gone to them, said all of this, and I said, you need to let me to be able to speak. And they tried to talk about coming back, and I said, look, we're in no place to do this because just previously, a couple of years previously, they had a conversation with me and they says, look, would you like to make steps to get return? I says, look, I was as sorry as I could be back when you disfellowshipped me in 2001. I can't be any more sorry than I was then. I'm not going to apologize again to you. The apology was there. Accept it or you don't. And I got up and I left, and they're trying to, because there's nothing in the book of how to deal with this.
Yeah, there's no procedure for that.
Where do we deal with that kind of a response?
Yeah, that kind of reasonable response.
Yeah. So now we're at this stage, and they knew that there's no point trying to, because I'm not going to play the game. So even though I was mentally in. But we agreed that I could see my mom every 8 weeks. How they came to 8 weeks, I'm not sure.
So they came up with that 8 weeks.
8 weeks. Once every 8 weeks, I could come visit my mom. Now,
that's just terrible.
This happened. I was allowed to go see my mom from that period around 2006, 2007, all the way through to 2012. In 2012, I was engaged to be married to my current wife. And I had invited her to the wedding, and she come out to the house to say that she's not going to talk to me anymore. This is it. I want you to come back to Jehovah. The whole I says, you know what the situation is there, ma'am. It's not as straightforward as you're trying to make it out. I'm as sorry as I could be. I can't be any more sorry than I was. It's up to the elders now to kind of say bygones be bygones and move on, or you go do and shun as much as you want. Now, at this stage, my mom had improved with her mental health, so I wasn't too concerned. But yeah, she stopped talking to me then, and she hasn't spoken to me since.
How long has that been?
Except at funerals.
How long has that been?
That's 10 years. It's 10 years now.
Jesus.
Yeah. So interesting, the funerals, hey? That's the only contact I have with my family is the funerals. And there's been 2 now.
Yeah. Two for me, Greg, as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the last one was my uncle, another of her brothers, her younger brother, had passed away as well from cancer, and I go in and I'm shaking hands with everyone. The way the Irish do it is you kind of around in the room and you go around to all the family that are, it's the brothers and sisters and that sort of thing, and you go around and shake everyone's hands. My mom was at the end. I gave her a hug. I said, I hope you're okay. And she says, thanks, Jay. She just goes, thanks very much, Jay. She was glad to see me. She was very nervous. She was nervous because she knows I'm an apostate. I don't know how she views that and how she reacts to it, but I know she does miss me an awful lot. But she's in conflict in her own mind that, Jehovah says I can't talk to my son, but she wants to talk to her son. So she asks my brother all the time, how am I doing?
Really?
And it's a bit silly because she has had no relationship whatsoever with my son and daughter. The last time she saw my son and daughter was when they were about 2 and 4. They're now 14 and 12.
Wow. That's so interesting to bring up a point here for us that are shunned. Isn't it weird when you don't have contact with family members? Like when you do see immediate family members all the time, you don't notice people aging. But for me, it's like, okay, I haven't seen you in 5 years. Now everybody looks different and I look different. Like it's like we're just seeing little snippets, and as people age, have you noticed that?
Yeah. Yeah, I went to a funeral for my aunt on my dad's side, and it was super weird. Into a Kingdom Hall. I felt like a disfellowship person, like sat at the back. Nobody talked to me. I think an attendant kind of said hello. My parents and family were at the front. And so when the whole nonsense funeral was over, I went up and same thing, hugged my mom and dad. And I don't even know what they said. They kind of mumbled under their breath. They were super nervous, and it's just a strange reaction because you can tell, that's the time when families get together and support each other. And we've had like deaths in our family that we've had to deal with. And so when something like that happens, it's a real trigger for them. And it's a weird experience. It's got to be hard on them. That's the thing. Like, that's why you can't I can't stay angry with people because, they're deceived and it obviously hurts them.
And I think they're more awkward than we are. Do you notice that, Jason?
Yeah, well, actually, I was just thinking there because, Nash, you need to kind of turn things around. You said you sat at the back. When I go to any of these events, I prioritize myself over them to the point that they're actually step back and to stay away because they are afraid. I guess I'm an extremely confident person anyways.
Yeah. I
used to be when I was at JW. I was a very humble little fella. I'm very afraid even to speak out. Now I speak out about anything. I'm not afraid to express myself. And so when I go to events, be it a family event, like there was another event where we had, where it was just a family reunion. And I didn't think my sister and her husband were going to turn up, but they did. But I was there and I wasn't a bit bothered by them, just did my thing. But they were bothered by me to the fact that they kind of left early and kind of just sneaked out the door without anyone noticing. And I think that's what you have to do. Just take control of the situation and let them be the ones that are the problem. And not because you're not the problem. You're not the problem. The problem is them. It's them shunning you, not you shunning them. And you can just be normal. Like, they were there and I go straight over beside them and start talking to other families. Oh, how you doing, John?
Yeah.
How's everything going? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
And what happened was at the family thing is like, they when they had gone, they're just kind of going, that's just weird the way they just cut you off, Jason, that they just can't even talk to you just at an event like this. This is a family event. It's supposed to celebrate family, and yet they're not talking to you. I says, and the Jehovah's Witnesses would like you to think that normal family relations continue. You're a bunch of fucking liars.
Yeah, for sure. And it reminds me, like, I run into my dad lots in this town. And I mean, when that happened, I was fairly newly out, so I still was feeling that shame that you get, I guess, naturally with being shunned Jehovah's Witness. But now, like, I see my dad yesterday, drove by him, and my truck's very noticeable. And I always, like, I'll roll my window down and put my hand out and wave at him, and he just is like 2 hands on the wheel, trying to look straight ahead with this weird look on his face. And other people see it, and it just goes to show how ridiculous it is, how ridiculous it is, and how one-sided it is. Because they try, and I mean, I was going through this Norway stuff this morning too, and it's not news to us, but that's what they do. They paint it out like it's us shunning them. Just like when you become a Jehovah's Witness, all your friends are going to start shunning you that you used to have. That's not true.
No, and
They're shunning you because you're in a cult and you're acting strange. Like they're not shunning you. You cut them out. Just like I didn't know any of my extended family until finally, years later, I reconnected with cousins and aunts and uncles that I never knew. And they've told me that, we didn't know you and we wanted to, you and your brothers, and your grandma wished she could have known you guys. And I didn't realize any of that was going on.
But you know what? They talk about how shunning is supposed to help you return, right? And it's supposed to give a good witness. But the funny thing is that the whole thing is that it solidifies in your mind that it's not the truth, that it's not the religion that is blessed and accepted by God. Because if it was, do you think that there's a God looking down and going, patting Daddy on the back, well done, Dad, well done, you did a great job there now, not talking to Nash and looking straight on. I love you. I'm going to give you a lovely place in paradise, this lovely house. It's just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Whereas, and also also what's counter to that is that the fact that the family that aren't Jehovah's Witnesses just go, weirdos, stay away from that. I'm glad I never got caught up. They might say my sister or my sister-in-law, look, considering them my mother, they would be thinking she had tried to witness to us or had tried to preach to us over the years, and maybe I was kind of a little bit interested, but no. Look what they're doing to Jason and his family. No. Yeah. How you doing, Margaret? It's all great, but keep it to yourself. So it's counterproductive. It doesn't actually increase members. If anything, it's a reason why they struggle to get members. And it's a reason why they're always in a constant battle. They're always in a constant battle worldwide with the problem.
Yeah, I think that it's a control. Most of their members that they're getting now are all children of existing members, right? And so if they know that if they don't shun, then this next generation that's coming up is going to have that influence. So it's control. They have to control the information.
But it's a catch-22 situation, though.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Could you ever see, and I mean, my opinion is whatever, but could you ever see them changing it? I mean, right now we see them digging their heels in and just saying this is our human right. It's everyone's choice. But as you said, and I agree, it's super counterproductive because as far as bringing members in that aren't indoctrinated as children, people look at this and they say, I don't want any part of this. The reality is when you're a kid and you go over the baptism questions and you want to be baptized, you're never told, sure, people get disfellowship, but you don't really think about it. You don't really think about the consequences that I might change my mind.
They don't go over it I don't know if they do now, but they didn't really go over it in direct.
They don't. It's not even in the questions, really.
They do, but they
don't. They brush over it. So I just wonder if they could ever, I mean, I guess they probably have to start bleeding numbers.
That's a great question.
Well, I think it's a little bit more complicated than just bleeding numbers. I think it's and it goes all the way back to activism. We'll probably discuss it a little bit further on. But when the whole thing of activists and XJWs trying to show how Jehovah's Witnesses shun people, it's been going on for years, for decades. And nothing has changed. If anything, I mean, they started ramping it up in the early 1980s, when we had Ray Franz and then a load of activists started coming out and going on to news, to the media with their stories. And that kind of blew things up. So then the shunning came down hard.
You think that was a real motivating factor for them getting harder on shunning?
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. And so as you see, right, since around 2014, activism has ramped up considerably. And from that period as well, especially from 2000, I think it was around 2012, actually. Was it 2000? No, 2010, 2011, they ramped up the shunning even further. And as activism has gone on, they're still continuing with it, still bringing the rhetoric in regards to both conventions and magazine articles about how you should treat family members that have left Jehovah, and trying to make it a very much a religious matter. So, and I think the angle here is to try and get the human rights around to saying that, like, we can shun, we can enforce shunning, and it's our human right to do so, and it's all within our doctrine. So you as governments aren't allowed to look at what we're doing here, because what we're doing here is a religious practice, and it's nearly like it's absolute when it isn't. Yeah. But they want to present it as an absolute right, and they're trying to do that with Norway and other countries. But I think when and how would they change it, to answer your question, Nash, is if we can show countries convincingly that the shunning is an enforced practice, that is unnecessary, but it's done by the religious groups, and then
it's not voluntary.
Yes, and that if it's voluntary, that's completely a different situation
True.
altogether. A different argument, and there's nothing we can do there. If my mom was doing it because it was a voluntary thing, I'd say grand, but it's not. So if we can get,
and that's what they avoid talking about in their submissions. Even in Norway, they never mention, and this is where the real lie comes in, is that talking to a disfellowshipped person is a disfellowshipping offense.
Yeah, so I have it right here. This is the one that really bothered me in the Norway submission. It says, when a person is disfellowshipped, it is up to each individual in the congregation to use his or her personal religious conscience to decide whether or not to limit contact or completely avoid contact with that person. So they say that's your choice. But the Shepherd Book says, under unnecessary association with disfellowshipped or disassociated individuals, if you go down near the end of that paragraph, it says, he would not be dealt with judicially unless there is a persistent spiritual association or he persists in openly criticizing the disfellowshipping decision. So they word it so that, hey, see, it's a spiritual thing. It's a religious thing. But like Greg pointed out, I think when we talked last time, everything when you're a Jehovah's Witness really is a spiritual thing because their whole life is their religion. But even association, I mean, unless you're like buying and selling something from someone, Jehovah's Witnesses look at association as spiritual association.
Yeah, everything is a spiritual interaction.
That's a very good point. But I think we should also point out the manipulation and coercion, because when it comes to how we treat family members, how we view blood transfusions, how we deal with matters in general that are of that are an issue for Watchtower when it comes to the courts, it's always presented as a personal choice. So that when you go into the hospital, it's a personal choice that you don't want to have a blood transfusion. And they do their best within their literature to make it seem to even you as a member that you're doing this out of a choice and that it's Jehovah that you're trying to keep happy. Irrespective of whether Jehovah's Watchtower or anything, because when you look at it, you can actually, they're one and the same, because you keep Jehovah happy, you keep the Watchtower happy. But back to that point then is that when you look at the elder manuals, we don't have access to that. The ordinary JW doesn't have access to that. But
thank you for giving us access to that, Jason.
Yeah, no problem. But the point is that they have, each Jehovah's Witness actually thinks it's a choice until the point where it becomes an issue for them. So if they want to, let's say,
interesting point,
if they're having a blood transfusion, right? This is the only time they'll know how the doctrine actually works, is they're lying on the bed and the elder giving pastoral care says to him, you cannot have a blood transfusion. If you have a blood transfusion, you have disassociated yourself. So that's the first time they've ever come to the position where they're actually being told, actually, you either are going to be shunned or die, because it could come down to that. And what's the choice for them? Either die or be shunned. And what can they do once they're shunned? It's like no one's going to believe them anyway. They just feel like, oh, I just folded. Oh, it came to a point where I just didn't want to die and didn't want to live for Jehovah. And then it's the same with the shunning. What if it comes to the point where they just said, look, I miss my son, I miss my brother, I miss whoever, my friends, and they started talking to them. And it's only at that point they realize it's not a choice, because the elders will tell them, you keep this up, we will disfellowship you. Or you are showing that you no longer want to be a Jehovah's Witness, so you're actually disassociating yourself. Which, I mean, there's no difference to me. Associate, disfellowship, or fellowship, associate mean the same thing. So the same thing, disassociation, disfellowship mean the same thing, and actually the results are exactly the same. So the two words are the same, and we should. Watchtower like to show that they're kind of different, but they're not different. There's absolutely no difference between them, and we need to make that clear as well. But back to the point about how would we get them to stop shunning? Well, we have to get governments on board first of all, and then we have to get this the whole way up to the European Court of Human Rights, because right now they've won a lot of court cases in relation to into shunning that has let them get away, but they've never had to be put under pressure using their literature to be able for judges and courts to be able to see, actually, you're using underhanded methods. And if we can get there, and I think we can get there with Norway.
Well, they reference Germany in there, and they keep alluding to the fact that there was no evidence.
Okay, Germany,
shunning.
We'll come back to Germany, because Germany is a very interesting thing that I think.
Yeah, I want to know more about Germany, because I'm familiar with Belgium and Norway, but I'm less familiar with Germany. And it's possible that I'm like a lot of ex-JWs and current JWs, where, we're maybe, that Germany issue hasn't got as much press.
Yeah. And I think if we can get the pressure on around the world with governments, and where they're losing money, or there's a change in law that counters this harmful behavior by Watchtower, I think that's when they will kind of ease off on the disfellowshipping. I don't care if they say that you can no longer talk to your friends. I'm like, if my friends don't want to talk to me, They're not my friends anyway. But when it comes to family, that's where I take issue. And I would like it to end on at least at a familial level.
You had some great points there. Like, I've never heard that, described in such a way where you were saying that individuals that are members don't really realize that it's forced upon them until they're either lying in the bed needing a blood transfusion, or they start talking to a disfellowshipped person. That's great, man. If people just take away that from this whole interview, that's new to me.
Well, I think that goes along with the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses in general, they are in the dark, and that's kind of what keeps them happy, right? Because they're comfortable and they're in the dark, and they don't understand that there are these harmful practices. It reminded me of something simple, but when I talked to my son a few years ago, when he still talked to me, I think he was 13 at the time, and I wanted to address baptism with him, because I knew, I was running out of time to talk to him about it, because kids get baptized when they're young. And I just said, I want you to be sure that you understand the consequences when you become baptized. That now, if something changes in your life, and whether or not you make a mistake or you just change your mind, they can take your family and your friends from you. I said, that's the reality of it. It might not be worded that way, but that's the reality of it, and I can attest to it. And he just looked at me and he said, yeah, but I never will. And how many Jehovah's Witnesses feel that way, right? Yeah. That's how I felt as a kid. Yeah. That's how Jehovah's Witnesses feel in general. Well, I'm never going to screw up. And if I do, I'll say I'm sorry. Yeah. And Jehovah will forgive me, and we'll all carry on.
In the realm of imagination that they never do that.
And until you're in a judicial meeting, or like Jason said, you're sitting or laying in a hospital bed, and you start to really see those procedures and the way the elders operate, and then you start to see this organization in a whole new light. It never is the same again. Even if you're reinstated and you're still a full believer, it's still never the same. And it's because you've seen a dark side of the organization that I think 90% of the Jehovah's Witnesses out there have no idea. Yeah, maybe that's a big number, but I don't know.
But guys, this is awesome. Should we go back and, I'm kind of curious if we focus a little bit on Jason here, and keep going what we're talking about, but bring in all your different websites, and also talk about the different individuals you're helping right now. Go down the list here for us.
Actually, just before we go there, because
Okay.
that's Nash brought out another point there that just kind of reminded me of something. So if we go back to my disfellowshippings, right? So I was disfellowshipped both times for sex before marriage, right? So the first time I didn't care. I didn't even go to my judicial. I said, look, disfellowship me. I don't care. I'm in love. 20-year-old, first time, great girl, very good looking, the whole lot. So I didn't care. But then as I'm out for a while and I'm shunned for a while, I start feeling guilty and all the rest. And my mum was putting an awful lot of pressure on me that she's going to shun me. And when you're only a young fella, that kind of comes against you, or you start panicking. And so I just broke up with the girl then, and then I just started going back to meetings, and eventually got reinstated. I think it took about 13 months, right? But then the second time, and I think a lot of ex-JWs can relate to this, because if you look at all the Watchtower literature, it all talks about repentance. And if you're repentant, you'll never be disfellowshipped. And if you talk about to Jehovah's Witnesses, they'll always say, oh no, if he's repentant, he wouldn't be disfellowshipped. So obviously he wasn't repentant. And most Jehovah's Witnesses, any of them have never been in a judicial committee, who aren't elders or whatever, they will go into those things. They're very naive about how the whole system works, as I was naive, because I thought when I went in there, I was really sorry. I apologized for it. I confessed completely, but still got disfellowshipped. So if it's all about repentance, what's repentance? Well, the only way the Jehovah's Witnesses, if they go into court, they like to say that everything that's in the Elder Manual is in the Watchtower, all in their literature. Not true, completely and utterly false. It's just a blatant lie. It's not. So if you were to take the Elder Manual and you were to dissect it, you could actually extract a huge amount of information from it that is not in any literature. Yeah, they refer out to literature, but there's a lot in it that's not printed anywhere for the public or for the general Jehovah's Witness, and that includes repentance. So the whole repentant process is not explicitly and clearly defined for any ordinary Jehovah's Witness, so that you think that it's for you to be repentant. No, it's for an elder to determine whether you're repentant. And there's a big point there that we need to make clear, is that you don't define your own repentance, which you think you can, because you think it's up to you to be sorry. No, it's for the elders to decide whether that's true or not. And I would say in most cases that they get it wrong, because they have a book that tells them, well, did he do X, Y, and Z? Well, he done A, B, he didn't do C and D. Disfellowship, and it's very clinical, and I think this goes back to the whole Australian Commission. Why don't you have women in the judicial committee system? Whereas, and I think if there was, we'd have a more of a we'd be able to tend towards the emotional factors as well as the clinical spiritual factors that men look at. Because
so true. There's a whole there's a whole 50% of humankind that Watchtower is missing by not including women in leadership roles.
Yeah. And why not? Because, I mean, if you look at the Old Testament, and there was priestesses. Now, why was there priestesses? They were women that had a certain amount of control. But within the Jehovah's Witnesses, we don't. And it seems to be a very literal interpretation of Scripture that, the Christians didn't have women. And why not? Was that?
Well, Deborah was a judge, wasn't she? Was it Deborah? Wasn't Deborah a judge?
That's the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, the Christianity doesn't seem to be any. So therefore, women can't be in any sort of power at all. And it's really sad, really, because I think they would have had a better religious group, and they could have stood out as a better Christian group.
I've told people I've worked at camps before, and where these camps up in northern Canada, they were all men, and it's a weird kind of atmosphere, when you're in that, environment. It's almost like prison. You know what I mean? And like when you don't have women involved, and especially in leadership roles, it just creates this atmosphere, and it's harsh. Like judicial, when you're going into a judicial committee, this is a court case. They're coming, like they are looking for punishment. It's not a loving situation where, it's a confessional environment and where you feel loved, and, these are individuals there to help. They're there to judge you.
Yeah, and just on that, Greg, actually, that's one thing that I was kind of surprised as well when I was in this judicial process, because it was the first time, right? Because I got this fellowship twice, but it's only the first time that I was actually in the process was the second time, and I'm a little bit older. I was surprised of the whole, okay, you stand out there in the other room while we go in here and close the door and we'll discuss you and your situation. Whereas I thought it was going to be a very open discussion. And the discussion would be centered around me, with me all the time. But no, there's all secrets being told between them, and gave it a very worldly kind of underhanded feel about it, that I just lost faith that night when they decided that they were going to. I lost faith completely. I broke down and I left. And I just felt, well, if Jehovah's with this organization, I don't really want anything to do with this organization. I went home, I cried, I talked to my brother-in-law. I said, look, I'm out. I've had enough. There's something wrong here. There's something.
You really felt loved in that situation, hey?
You know, it's funny because that's kind of exactly how I felt. Not exactly, but similar to how I felt after my second one too. Because I mean, I had my fair share of judicial meetings because I went through some serious problems. And you think you have this personal relationship with Jehovah. You think it's between you and him when you're a Jehovah's Witness, and so you pray, you study, you read the Bible, you do all the things you're told you're supposed to do, because you are repentant and you really do believe it, and you don't want to be gone, you don't want to be kicked out, and you don't want Jehovah to reject you, right? Because that's what you think it's about. So you go in there with that mindset, and then you realize, when they start asking, well, who knows? Is this public?
Yeah.
Does so-and-so know? Does your family know? Does your wife know? Oh, this was on the news? It's a foregone conclusion. Yeah. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter what you're doing now. If it's public and worldly people know about it, you're out. That's just the way it is. And that's when you start to realize that this isn't about you and God. This is about you and an organization and its reputation, and it has nothing to do with you as an individual, because
they're cowards. They're cowards. When it comes to their beliefs, they don't stand up for their beliefs when pushed by the courts. And look at even their own members. They don't stand by their own members either. You know what I mean? If it's public, yeah, you're right, Nash. You're done.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you should mention that, Nash, because others had known about it. And that's what I discovered afterwards. I didn't realize at the time, but I discovered afterwards. I was disfellowshipped, and I was always going to be disfellowshipped because others knew about it.
Yeah,
I know that. So it's to be seen to be doing something, and depending on the severity of the sin, it doesn't matter how repentant you are. But that's not in literature. That's not in any of the publications. You don't see that. If a brother or sister is being completely repentant, but yet others have found out about it, they will be disfellowshipped, and that's a loving arrangement from Jehovah. That's not, isn't it?
No, that's just policing your members. That's what that is.
Yeah, policing your members and secret courts, secret documents that individual publishers don't know anything about. You know, there's so much behind the curtain that regular publishers don't get to see, and it's got nothing to do with love.
Yeah,
it's a corporation protecting themselves.
And that then leads into the whole websites then, Greg.
Okay, take it away, Jason.
Because when I started waking up, it was my brother had come to me and he says, Jason, have you ever looked at Jehovah's Witnesses and their history? He says, you might be surprised. I say, oh no, I'm not going to look at that. That's all apostate stuff. He goes, what's apostate stuff, Jason? Like he grew up as Jehovah's Witness, so I knew what he meant by the question. I says, well, it's all going to be lies. It's all going to be distorted information. It's going to be non-factual and all the rest. He goes, Jason, you've been a long time a Jehovah's Witness. You're a very intelligent lad. You'll know if you're being lied to or not. So what have you got to lose? I says, Keith, you got a point. All right, I'll take a look. So I went home and I started looking. He told me to go and have a look at Bet Sarim. And I went and looked at Bet Sarim, and that opened up a can of worms, because then I found out, I was like reading it and I'm going, okay, hang on. I'm going to keep that information. And I saved it all down. And then I went out and found out more information, and I went and found out about, one of the presidents of the United States. What's his name? He was a commander, and he was a commander during World War II.
Truman?
Eisenhower.
Eisenhower.
And his
right.
his mother and father were Jehovah's Witnesses. His father left.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, this is fascinating stuff. And then I found out a whole load of other things, and then started finding documents, letters. And all this time, as I'm reading this, I said, people need to know about this. We're being lied to. We're actually being lied to. So I created Avoid JW. I didn't know where I was going to go, but I was thinking people need to avoid Jehovah's Witnesses because they're just a bunch of liars. So
here we go. This is Avoid JW. I want to just kind of show everybody, these websites that you have been involved with, either now or as a founder.
Yeah, but if you click up on the top there at Jehovah's Library.
Yep.
So that has everything. You have documents, magazines, workbooks, policy letters, publications, public talks, videos, movies, and Watchtower Library. Now, to me, the most interesting ones are the policy letters and documents. There you will get the most important information for anyone, because they're the things that you don't see. They're not public information. So,
just for those watching, I've used this website. Is incredible. This was fantastic that you started this, Jason. It's just so amazing how much work you put into all this. I know you're not running it now, but as a founder, and it's just incredible. If people are watching, they want to go for a tour of this website. It's incredible.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the person that's involved and that's running this website. I really appreciate the work that they're doing. Keeping it going. It's just that it was an awful lot of work, but the whole point of it was Watchtower say that it's all lies, it's all distortions, it's twisting of what they say. But I thought, hang on a second, Paul Grundy from JW Facts was presenting information and he was quoting from their material, and you could go to that information through Watchtower Library or whatever, and you could verify everything he said. But hang on, why don't we just have all of that information, especially the secret stuff that is claimed, or the elder manuals? No one sees them. And what was happening at the time, which was, I started in 2014, all these XJWs were putting them up, but they were all over the place. And I said, well, this only helps XJWs. It's no good to just XJWs have this.
Yeah.
We need to get this into the hands of people that matter. Law enforcement, to politicians, to journalists, to healthcare workers, to all of those that are working with Jehovah's Witnesses or former Jehovah's Witnesses in some capacity, and with all these different cases that I was starting to hear, especially with the Australian Royal Commission in 2015. We need to get all this information out into the public so that people can really access it and then start to query Jehovah's Witnesses as to what are they really doing. And I think this is the best. I think Avoid JW is the best research tool in the world for Jehovah's Witnesses. I know that.
I've used this data protection. I was really interested in this. What you did, or I don't know if you did this or the other individual helping out did this. I went through that quite a lot, and there is a huge amount of information on this website.
Yeah, the financial.
I just want to make it clear to people too, in case you're watching. This is where you're going to find the Shepherd book. It's on here. Anybody wants to see that. I mean, that's a good starting point for regular publishers that have never been elders. The Shepherd's book, it's in here.
Yeah, and the financial information, a lot of people didn't have access to financial information. That's all in there. That took me a long time, and that took an awful lot of money to get some of those documents, because certain websites ask you to pay for it. You can't just download it, but I've made it available for people to download for free now. So they have that. Just can take it, and that's empowering as well. People don't know how the money is used. How much money does Watchtower have? So that by the time the Watchtower were in one of the court cases, I can't remember which one, when they were asked about how much money they had, we already had a good idea. We put it at around 1.6 billion is what the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania at the time was worth, and it came out in the courts that it was 1.6 billion. So we were very right on the mark as to how much money they had. But that's only one entity. And then there's all the money that's going into Germany. And that's all going into a black hole. I mean, you'll see on here, we don't have anything on Germany. And we'll go into that further about Germany, because Germany is a very interesting place. But Germany is one of the countries where Jehovah's Witnesses have been extremely litigious as well, because of the rights they have in that country, and how it's that country and its laws with relation to recognize religions it empowers them to be able to be more abusive than anywhere else. And we need to change the law in relation to that in Germany. Because
so give us a rundown on what is happening in Germany right now.
So there's a couple of things happening in Germany. So there's the equivalent of an Australian Royal Commission going on with child abuse within Jehovah's Witnesses over there. And there was a court case previously, in fact, in November of 2021, which is just a couple of months ago, they had a Zoom meeting. The government, or the crowd that are running the Child Abuse Commission in Germany, had an interview with key representatives of Jehovah's Witnesses via Zoom, and they asked a whole bunch of questions and they didn't get much answers. And they were very unhappy with how they weren't very forthcoming with revealing stuff. Meanwhile,
so it goes with them.
Yeah. Meanwhile, as that's happening, Pickle, who's their German lawyer, has been, he sent out a letter to a former elder by the name of Walter Nagel, accusing him of distributing a letter that's false, and he said that this is false. But the government has also asked for that letter. It's supposedly a letter from 2007 where the Jehovah's Witnesses told all the elders to destroy anything relating to child sexual abuse. Nagel is claiming that actually...
Sorry, back up here. So that happened. So this, where they were told to destroy anything with regards to child sexual abuse in Germany
in 2007. That's the allegation.
Really? That's the allegation. Yes. Yeah. We'll make that clear. Yeah.
And there's a letter from Walter Nagel that it looks, when you look at it, it looks like it was manipulated. But he's claiming that there was a similar letter that was distributed worldwide, and he's saying that when he was an elder in 2007, he got that letter. So Pickle says it's a forgery, and
wow,
he said he might take legal action against him if he doesn't desist from distributing it. But Nagel is claiming no, it's an authentic letter, and I think through the courts, they're requesting access to that letter.
Yeah.
And Watchtower are not, so far have not revealed what was in that letter from that date, because the letter does exist, because it did exist in one form or another. So, and then there's another court case that's going on. I'm not sure the details. I have to read into it further. That's taking place in September, I think, of this year. And I think it's related to the child sexual abuse. But I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong on that. But there is a court case of some sort in September relating to Jehovah's Witnesses. Right. Again, this is where they've asked for information. So far, Jehovah's Witnesses haven't presented the information. There's allegations from two sides. And then back in 2018, Watchtower took a case. Someone have read about that. Took a case against the French crowd Fecris, who are, that's Fecris. That's a crowd run by Alexander Dvorak. Some people would know Alexander Dvorak. He's an anti-cult activist in Russia. He actually interviewed me in 2017, shortly after they were banned in Russia. But he would have played a key part in getting Jehovah's Witnesses banned in Russia. And I had given him information as well. But he was sued by the Jehovah's Witnesses for making false allegations. Now, there was well over 30...
Can I just interrupt? Are we still in Germany here, or is this in France?
Oh, sorry, we're in Germany. We're still in Germany.
We're still in Germany. Okay.
Yeah, I know it's a French... Fecris is a French organization.
Okay.
Dvorak is a Russian national. Okay. But the court case took place in Hamburg in 2018.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Okay.
And the Watchtower under Pickle had claimed that he made 32 false allegations, or at least 32. They won on 18 counts, but they failed on 14. And the 18 that they won on weren't really major issues at all.
Technicalities.
It was the 14 that they lost on that were very important, and they related to shunning and child abuse and a lot of other things about their money and so forth. I will try and get that document. The document is a 65-page document that I do intend translating from German into English, and eventually I'd like to get that up and available for people to read, because it is a very interesting court case.
Translating work that's a lot of work. Like, I've actually been, while my wife speaks a few languages, and she's been requested to translate some documents that maybe we won't talk about, but you can maybe imagine what they are. Anyway, it's a lot of work. So I'm very, I applaud you from how much work that you do there. I mean, maybe you send it to somebody else to do it, but still, it's a lot of work.
I do it myself. So the
Really?
the Norwegian one that was about 40 pages, I translated that myself. That took 8 hours to do. Some people just, get the information and they think, oh, this is a walk in the park. If I was charging for this information and I was saying, let's say it was $50 an hour for my work, multiply that by 8 hours, what's that? That's $400 that I should be charging everybody for a copy of that.
Exactly.
That'll be available in our store.
Yeah, it'll be in our store.
With our other merch. $400 documents.
But you see the amount of work that goes in, and yet we're giving money out for activism, but are we using the money correctly?
Ain't that the truth?
We'll go into that further, I guess. But so that's the work that's going on in Germany. But saying that, so this is where it's key with the activism, and it's kind of the work that I do now, is because I don't really have time for the websites anymore, is that I get information from different countries. Like I'm linked into people across the world, really, in let's say the Netherlands and Belgium, in Germany, in Switzerland, in Norway, in the UK, in Canada, in the US, Japan, Greece, and certain countries in Africa. But if I get that information and it's important information, then it's like, well, if there's a court case going on in another location, and there's the argument Watchtower presenting, well, if I look at this information and I read it and I see something that is useful for this court case, I will give it to those activists so that they can use it. Because this is what Watchtower does. If you read that document, Greg, that 40-page document, you see that they referred out to various court cases. Well, there's other court cases that work against them as well. So we need to be giving that information to activists in different parts of the world. And I don't know if there's anyone else other than myself that actually does this work where there's the linking in between different activist groups. Because I know there's activists working in their countries for their country. Whereas I'm kind of not, I do a bit of activism in my country, but I usually don't have a huge amount of time just for my country. I'm looking at all the other countries and seeing where they're coming and getting their work. And can I help them in certain ways?
Well, and this is something I want to say, like, for new people that want to become activists, lots of times the mentality is, okay, I'm going to start a website, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Whereas it would be actually probably more effective to just help somebody that's already got the infrastructure set up. You already have the pipelines going, right? So it's better to just promote you for something like this and help you in any way that you can, with either promoting or whatever it is that you need, Jason, so it's really important. We've already got you here, so let's utilize and help you as best we can.
Yeah, actually, just on that, Greg, that's a very good point, because when in the height of Avoid JW, when I was working on it, it was getting around 6,000 to 10,000 hits a day, right? 6,000 to 8,000 hits a day. That's a lot of hits, right? But then then there's all these other people with their websites, and I don't know how many hits they're getting, but I couldn't imagine that it could be right. JW, except for JW Facts, I can't imagine, and maybe JW Survey to a lesser extent, but I can't imagine that any other websites were getting as many hits or anywhere near that. Maybe I'd say they're well under 1,000 hits a day, and maybe they're happy with that. But would they be better off taking that information that they have, all those things, and working with the likes of Avoid JW or JW Facts or anyone that would have them with the bigger ones, and make the big one bigger by working together, and have your name on it if you want, so that you're the person behind your own article, because that's who you are. If you want to
some recognition of some sort, but still part of the community,
part of a community, where we're united together for the same, and we have the same vision and values. And what's our end goal anyway? Our end goal is to reduce or eliminate the harmful practices of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Because the phrase I like to use is drag the watchtower into the 21st century, kicking and screaming. You know, there was something that Nashon and I were talking about, and this is a good time to bring this up. I had some comments from, I am in contact with one or two individuals that were fairly high-ranking individuals in the watchtower, and now they're kind of fading, or and they've, if an individual right now wanted to leak some documents, if they're still in the watchtower, maybe they work at a Bethel or they're a CO, and they're starting to realize, they're starting to wake up, with the, I'm not afraid to mention Lloyd's name, with that whole debacle. An individual may not want to leak documents down that road. Where would you suggest? How would you advise an individual that wanted to leak some documents? Where would you go there? What would you do?
Well, there's a couple of ways, right? So there's the likes of Atlantis, who's always leaking documents, right? And he has his own leakers that give information to him. He's usually on the JW network, but he's also works underground and provides information to other groups like Avoid JW, and he has to me in the past. You can send information to me. I can always get that information. I have all the contacts to be able to get that information disseminated anyway. So
where would that be? So send it to you. What would that be? Your email or Avoid JW, or?
It would be my email.
Okay, so we'll put that maybe right across the screen right now, and we'll put it in the description.
But no, I'd rather not the email out. What I'd like people to do, that anyone wants to leak to me, is that they can leak to me either through my Reddit account or through my Twitter account, and then I can work with them that way, how to get the information.
So private message. So private message on Twitter or Reddit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a chat on Reddit, because Reddit has both options, and that helps, and we can get that information out. So it's very important to get that information out. So some people, one thing that really annoyed me, and that's with some activists, is that they get these leaks, but they don't share them, and then they say that this is, by talking about it on their Twitter account, showing it to 100,000 people, is sufficient. No, it's not. It never was. The only way we can actually use that information is that we can see that it's a genuine piece of material, get it in PDF format or doc format, and that we can give that to others, or that there's activists there that are in different countries.
It's a resource.
That they can access that themselves and be able to provide it to to professionals in their own country, and show them this is how Watchtower are operating.
Yeah. Well, this is the
and then we can find it, right? Because that might be 4 years ago that happened, and all of a sudden it pops up into our head. Oh, I need that. I remember that document that talked about that, and I can't find it because it's on some video somewhere. So we got to have a resource, and that's why the websites are so beneficial.
How do you go through a YouTube video? If someone's got 200, 300 videos, how do you know which video it was? I mean, I ask anyone just to go on to jw.org, where Stephen Lett said that there's more money going out than they're coming in. Now I'll ask you, this is the challenge: find that video, and find that video in 10 minutes. Because I tell you what, you could find that information in 10 minutes if it's in text format on Avoid JW, but you will not find that video in 10 minutes unless you already know the link and where you have it, and you have it saved yourself personally. But if you wanted just out of the blue and you wanted to put in a Google search, there's more money coming in, will you find it? Probably.
And
not.
this is what I think needed to be said about activism is, what's your goal here? What's your motivation? The motivation should be the progress of the activism, not your personal views,
Notoriety.
viewership, you know what I mean? And so that needs to be said, whether it's controversial or people don't like it, whatever, who cares? It needs to be said.
Yeah, because I did a Twitter tweet there just on how what does activism mean to you? And I said what activism means to me is that that the data that is causing harm, that we can take that information and give it to people who can either reduce or eliminate the harm. That's what activism means to me. And that data is information Jehovah's Witnesses say, whether it's in print format or in video format or in audio format, that information is that we can take that and give it to people who can actually use it. Now, I understand we do need YouTubers like yourselves and like anyone else to be able to give us a forum, the activists a forum, to be able to show the work that we're doing and help maybe empower others to do similar. Because the more of us there are, the more we can make an impression on the world.
Yeah, but you're the tip of the spear. You and individuals like you, like Mark O'Donnell, and it should be our goal to support you however we can, you know what I mean? To support activists that are actually bringing Watchtower to the table, that are actually making Watchtower expend resources with lawyers and, where to make them defend their beliefs and deal with governments. You're the tip of the spear. It's our job to support individuals like you, however we can.
And just to the point about money, right? So some people give an awful lot of money to activists or who they think are activists. But the question I'd ask you is how much of that money is actually being used for activists or gets actually results? For example, if you look at all the videos, right? So there was in Norway, there was a documentary done, a 1-hour documentary by NRK, the national TV station over there. How much money was used from activism to fund that video? Zero. There was 3 or 4, actually maybe 5 news articles in Ireland. How much money from activism that XJWs gave to activism to get those videos out? Zero. When you look at in the United States with Mark O'Donnell and to a lesser extent myself, but also to the work that was done by Martin Hawk and others, there was activism there, and there was the Atlantic article, and then there was the Crusaders thing. How much money from activism was given to be able to fund that kind of work? Zero. So what I'm saying is that you might think that the money you're giving to activism and to certain activists is going into activism, is not going into activism. I would say that it's less than 1% of the money given to activists or so-called activists isn't going into activism. Now it's going into YouTube videos, but YouTube videos and even Alt-Worldly, Jake, he would admit that YouTube videos isn't so much activism, but it does empower activists, I think.
Yes. It's an important factor. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah, we don't want to diminish the work that YouTubers do. We do need them. So don't go away.
Don't go away.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't take money either, that you don't need money. I would say, you do. You're doing work now, and no one's criticizing that. But I think people need to be clear about how their money is used, where the money is used, but very little, if any, money from that you might be donating to activists or to others is going into activism.
Well, you know what? I hope that we can help change that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's I agree 100% with all of that. And I just want to make sure that people understand that where I think that's what the big issue is right now. People need to know where their money's going. So if they want to support who they think is an activist, or they just want to support, let's just say a YouTuber, an entertaining activist that puts out content, if they know that's where their money's going, then do it. I think that's great, and support the people you want to support, but just know that that's what's happening, and as long as you know that, then everybody's fine. I just think we just don't want anyone to be deceived into thinking that that's where your money's going. And I think that's a great point. Like, it was, as far as those big documentaries go, Crusaders and The Witnesses, and the ABC one in Australia just recently, and those are all funded by those studios.
Yeah.
And they make a way bigger impression than we ever could with a YouTube channel on the public and on actual Jehovah's Witnesses that still believe, and the Watchtower takes notice of those.
Yeah.
And so we need to kind of, we need to promote that kind of thing. And of course, people need to continue doing what they're doing. Like, because we all know when we leave, YouTube's a big resource for people that leave, right? It leads you down that rabbit hole to JW Facts, to avoid JW, to start doing all the tedious research too, right? YouTube is an easy gateway into that research that maybe isn't so easy to do.
So actually, just on a point, right? So because of YouTubers like you and other YouTubers, what I want to make a point is there was in that same tweet that I had done on the on what is activism, there was I'm assuming she's a girl, but she had mentioned that she does all this work to help empower women and LGBT rights, and she talks to various groups, including church groups, about Jehovah's Witnesses. And I go, you're doing work that very little people know about, and I think that YouTubers need to be able to be on the watch for these type of activists, kind of bring them on and see the work they're doing and showcase it, so that they're empowered. And maybe this person, whatever country they're in and wherever they're doing it or whatever state they're in, that someone else goes, you know what, I can do that. That's just I do that. I do this kind of work, but without thinking about the Jehovah's Witnesses. I could do that now. I can actually do it today, and that's why we kind of need to be on the lookout for other activists that are doing work. We need activists as well that are doing work in the background to let us know you're doing some work. Come on, let us know so that.
And that was the plan with this right from the beginning. It's not only to have guests on the show, but also we'll let people host the show if they want. They can run ask all the questions and talk about whatever they want. And there's the reins are not held very tight on this channel. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to bring on people and talk about all these kind of issues and bring people out of the woodwork. Now, like I say, people can do their own YouTube channel and we'll promote it that way if that's how they want. We'll talk about them that way, but just help the community in general.
So you just wanted to get another point, was the whole Access JW. Can we have a look at the Access JW?
Let's do that.
Because Access JW is an interesting website because it's
hilarious.
It's a parody website
for starters.
Oh, yeah, this one, yeah.
So this was designed because I had this website, Access JW. I had the domain name for a long time, and Access JW. Why I called it Access JW is because I wanted to have information at my fingertips, no matter where I was in the world. Because as I just mentioned earlier, people were contacting me and saying, "Jay, do you have this information? We're looking for something for a certain particular court case." And I would say, "Oh yeah, when I get home, I'll get it for you." So Access JW was created so that I could get the information on the fly. So I can actually go into Access JW anywhere I am in the world, and I can get the information. Behind this website is it's a server with 16 terabytes of space, and the 8 terabytes currently have JW related information on it. Right, that's a huge amount of information. I don't believe there's anywhere else in the world that has that much information relating to Jehovah's
Witnesses. Is this to do with the RTK? Is it?
Yeah. So RTK gives a snapshot of some of it. So if you imagine an iceberg, and you have the water level here, RTK is just above the waterline. Access JW and all the information is below that waterline. There's a huge amount of information right behind there, all relating to Jehovah's Witnesses. So if anyone asks me, I can get information for people, but they need to tell me what they're looking for. But in the foreground then is I created Jehovah's Culty Witnesses, which is a parody website. I did contact Jehovah's Witnesses legal team, Philip Brumley and Paul Polidoro, who are currently in litigation with Kevin McFree, and I informed them after the ruling, by the Judge Roman, I had where McFree had won the motion to quash the subpoena. I then contacted them and said, under the fair use doctrine, I can put this website up there. Yeah, it takes information from JW.org, but it only takes a certain amount of it and it's converted and is targeted towards an audience not the same market as Jehovah's Witnesses. So and there's no money to be made. And that's a very big key thing. There's no money. I'm not taking money away from Jehovah's Witnesses, because actually Jehovah's Witnesses are a charity, so they're not supposed to be seeking the money anyway. So, but still, market-wise, I'm not taking away from it, and I have totally converted everything. They never came back to me. I didn't.
So how do you navigate this site? Somebody's going to come on here, and they might just think it's a joke and it's hilarious, and then they leave. So
how do you navigate it? You just read the articles. You don't actually click on them, because everything goes to jw.org, but you can go on to them. I mean, it'll bring you to jw.org, but don't worry. Some people think, oh, the Watchtower can track me. Actually, no, there's no follow on these links. So when you click on a link, it doesn't. Watchtower can't see that you actually were at accessjw.org. They'll
log in and die.
You'll just get a count. That's all. So if it was a Jehovah's Witness that was on this website and clicked on a link and they got to jw.org, and they're worried that Watchtower will find out that they were on a apostate website, no, they won't be able to find that.
okay.
It's just not possible. But everything, all the menu bars, if you go up to the menus at the top and you mouse over them, just click on that. Yeah, it comes down. Then you can see all these explanations no one cares about, intents and indoctrination course. Now, any of them links, if you click on them, they'll bring you to jw.org. But yeah, so the whole thing is just to make a mockery of jw.org, and also at the same time show the manipulation of terms that they actually use. So now you're on the official website there.
No, I get it. Yeah. This is awesome.
But it's the whole thing is to kind of
propaganda for journalists.
Yeah.
You gotta love their legal. What is it? The legal news on the jw.org website, when they talk about what's happening legally around the world, and they don't talk about anything.
Very little.
Yes.
According to them.
Well, see, there's nothing legal wise that they have much news on. They have won a bunch of court cases in the European Court of Human Rights, and they've won the one up in Canada against Randy Wall, and they've won a handful of cases, but they're in court for an awful lot of cases that they lose, or that are about subjects that they don't want their members talking about, because settled out of court. Yeah, and if they were actually genuine
with NDAs,
they would have all that legal information up here, and be honest about, okay, we are in court cases. Yes, we do have a problem with child sexual abuse among some of our members, but we're dealing with it the right way. And here's why these court cases aren't going to win, because we've been X, Y, and Z. And if they do win, it was like, okay, we're sorry. But, narcissists are never sorry.
Unbelievable.
Never apologize. It was always some have said. When you look at the literature about past mistakes and things where they've changed their doctrine, it was some have written. The some are still Watchtower.
The most incredible thing lately was, what was it? Morris talking, giving that story to his kids about how, when they said, "Oh, you're never going to graduate," and he was like saying, "Oh no, you might want to, this system's probably going to go on longer than you think." It's like, what a lie! What a change of history! You know what I mean? When I was in the organization in the 80s, 90s, everybody talked like that. You're never going to graduate. You're never going to have a family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was promoted. It wasn't, that attitude wasn't avoided. That was promoted, that attitude.
Yeah. It's just like the 75 thing. They pretend like it never happened the way it really happened. It's like, that was just a couple crazy people. We never
1984, they literally rewrote history, and that's what Watchtower does. They literally rewrite history.
But if you click on jw.org there, the logo, just on that, when you go there, it's the manipulation. Look at this, and it's in Bible prophecies, and the refugee crisis, and the other
Bible
crisis,
prophecy being fulfilled.
It's just manipulating the people that are worried. And look, we've got the answers. God's going to come in and step in. But I'll ask you the question. If you were back in World War I and you see the events that were happening then, Were you thinking that it was the end of the world? I'm sure you were. Were you worried that it was the end of the world? I'm sure you were. But did it fulfill any Bible prophecy? Zero.
Yeah.
The same with World War II. Did anything happen? No. And if you go back through all of history, since when Jesus gave that prophecy, and the prophecy is a bit ridiculous anyways, because all of these events have been happening ever since he said it. You know, the years that followed, especially with the Romans and all that, and as you go through the centuries, and you have the Crusades. I mean, the Crusades you could consider was a world war of a sort.
I have a story, a quick 10-second story here. After I left the organization, I read a lot of books, and a lot of people do that. And I was so shocked. I read a book on the Crusades, and did you know that they believed? A lot of the Christian people at the time believed that if they were to retake Jerusalem, this would bring the return of Jesus and Armageddon. So the Christian religion has been preaching Jesus's return and Armageddon not since 1914 or not since 18 whatever, for thousands of years.
Oh, ever since Jesus,
ever since he left.
Since he gave that prophecy, even before he left. Because once he gave that, it's like, okay, now we have to look out for events. He's going to die. Oh, he died. So he died. Now we got to keep an eye out. And so keep on the watch, therefore. So everyone's on the watch for 2,000 years. Yeah. And all these wars that have happened, and a lot of them are bloody, and every religion will admit that the bloodiest wars in history have been religious wars, and not one of them has God come back and said, okay, enough is enough. Yeah, this is now it. Bringing ye into paradise, and the rest of you.
AvoidJW.org.
Nope. Hasn't happened yet.
But, talk to my family. I mean, I the last time I had this conversation where my family would have a spiritual conversation with me was about 10 years ago. And my brother said to me, this can't go on for another 5 years. It can't. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah. It does.